A staged accident by my husband and his mom to take my baby and wealth. I sat in my car, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. My eyes were glued to the phone screen. 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test stared back at me. It wasn't a dream, it was real. After 5 years of waiting, 5 years of hoping and crying, the miracle had finally happened. My heart pounded with joy. A huge smile spread across my face. I pictured James's reaction when I showed him the picture. His warm green eyes would light up with happiness. The traffic light turned green. I pressed the gas pedal gently. The car moved smoothly down the quiet street. The afternoon sunlight poured through the windows, making everything look brighter. A soft love song played on the radio. It was about forever love, with a sweet melody. Normally, I'd think it was silly. But today, it felt just right. James is going to be so excited. I whispered to myself. I imagined him wrapping me in a big hug, whispering how much he loved me. James had wanted a baby since we got married. His mom, Evelyn, always asked about grandkids at every family dinner. That pressure used to make me nervous. But now, all the worry was gone, replaced by pure happiness. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in the corner of my eye. Before I could react, a loud crash filled the air. Everything spun around me. The sound of metal crunching and glass breaking was deafening. A scream echoed in my head. Maybe it was mine. My body jerked hard, and the world turned blurry. In the chaos, one thought screamed in my mind: protect the phone. James has to see the picture. When everything stopped spinning, I couldn't feel my face. Warm liquid dripped down my neck. A faraway voice shouted, "Oh no, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." The voice sounded like it came from another world. Far from me, a hand touched my arm. A calm voice said, "Can you hear me? Don't move. We're getting you out." I tried to speak, to say something about the baby. But my lips wouldn't move. Pain and cold wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. The last thing I felt was a gentle hand holding mine. A voice promised, "Everything will be okay." But that promise wasn't true. When I opened my eyes, a bright white light hurt them. I was in a hospital room, and everything felt fuzzy. A dull pain spread through my whole body. I blinked a few times and saw James. He sat in a chair next to my bed, his head down. He held a crumpled tissue in his hands. His dark hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled. Dark circles under his eyes told me he'd been here a long time. I tried to lift my arm, but it felt so heavy. Every move took all my strength. "James," I whispered, my voice so soft I barely heard it. He jumped up, his eyes meeting mine. For a moment, I saw something strange in his gaze: confusion, maybe fear. But then he smiled, a smile that didn't feel real. "You're awake," he said, trying to sound gentle. "I was so worried about you." I wanted to smile back, but my face felt wrong. A numbness spread from my cheek to my chin, like my skin wasn't mine anymore. A bad feeling grew inside me. I only had the strength to ask one thing. "The baby?" James squeezed my hand, but it didn't feel comforting. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," he said, his voice shaky. "The doctors tried everything." His voice didn't sound sad, it sounded different, like he was hiding something. A cold feeling ran through me, like the ground had vanished beneath me. I closed my eyes, not wanting to see anything anymore. The sounds around me turned muffled, like I was underwater. The door opened, and I smelled a familiar flowery scent. It was Evelyn's rose perfume. She always wore it. "James, the doctor needs to talk to you," Evelyn said softly. "It's about the surgery options." "I'll be right there," James replied, letting go of my hand. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to be asleep. Their voices faded as they stepped outside, but I heard bits through the cracked door. "She'll need a lot of surgeries," James said, his voice low. Her face, "Mom, I don't know if I can handle this." "Don't worry, honey," Evelyn said, her voice calm but sharp. "We'll figure it out, step by step. The important thing is your image, your career. Everything else can be taken care of." Hot tears rolled down my face, soaking the bandages. Those tears felt like they burned away the last bit of hope I had. They were talking about me like I was a problem to fix. I hadn't just lost my baby, I'd lost the husband I thought I knew. I'd lost my confidence, my dreams of a happy future. In that cold hospital room, something inside me broke. The old Sarah, the loving wife, the hopeful mom, was fading. A new Sarah was starting to grow. Colder, stronger, but full of pain. I knew my life would never be the same. When I got home, everything looked the same, but it felt different. Our small house in the suburbs of Willow Creek used to feel warm. James and I had decorated it together, picking every little detail. Now, it felt empty, like the happiness had disappeared. "James, are you sure I should stay in the living room?" I asked. My voice was rough after so many days in the hospital. He didn't look at me, just dragged my suitcase into the room. "The doctor said you shouldn't climb stairs yet," he said. "It's better if you stay down here for now." His voice didn't have the warmth it used to. I stood in the living room, feeling like a stranger. The sofa bed was made up with clean white sheets. Everything was neat, but it didn't feel like mine. My things, like my hairbrush and clothes, were moved down here. I looked at the small mirror on the table. It was turned to the wall, like James didn't want me to see myself. "Do you need anything?" James asked, already holding his phone. His eyes barely looked at me for a second. "I have some calls to make." "I'm okay," I whispered, even though my heart hurt. I knew the truth. He didn't want to look at me. He didn't want to face me with my scars, with my pain. I felt like a mess, something that didn't fit in his perfect life. A few days later, Evelyn came to visit. She brought homemade soup and a bag full of books about healing after accidents. She walked into the house like she owned it. She gave me a quick smile and started organizing everything. "Have you been taking your medicine on time?" she asked. Her eyes looked around the room, not at me. She folded the blanket on the sofa while she talked. "Yes," I said, trying to hide how uncomfortable I felt. "James said the doctor talked about surgery options." She went on. Her voice sounded casual, but I knew it wasn't. "Have you thought about it yet?" I didn't answer right away. I just looked at my hands. Bruises still marked my fingers. At least my hands were still whole, even if my face wasn't. I knew what Evelyn cared about, how things looked to others. I used to think she was just being kind, but now I saw it differently. She wanted to control everything. "Insurance doesn't cover those surgeries," I said, my voice colder than I meant. "And even if it did, I'm not ready to think about it." Evelyn stopped and looked at me with a serious face. "James has been so worried about you, Sarah," she said. "His career has been struggling since the accident. If you could fix your appearance, it would help both of you so much." I felt trapped, like they were pushing me into a corner. Whose image were they worried about, mine or James's? The room went quiet, except for the ticking of the clock. Evelyn opened her mouth to say more, but then stopped. She stood up, smoothed her dress, and said, "Think about it. We all want what's best for James." When the door closed, I sat on the sofa bed, feeling empty. Evelyn's words stuck in my mind like sharp needles. I had lost my baby, my face, and now I felt like a burden. They wanted to fix me, like I was a broken thing. That night, in the dark, I opened my phone. I looked at old pictures of me and James. We were smiling, happy, in love. I didn't recognize the woman in those photos anymore. Was that really me, or just a happy dream I'd made up? My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my thoughts. A message from an unknown number popped up. "Hello, Sarah. I'm Daniel Harper, the father of the person who caused your accident. I'm so sorry for what happened, and I'd like to talk. Please give me a chance." I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to forget the accident, but another part wanted answers. The truth I'd been searching for. Was this a door to something real, or just more pain? I typed one word, "Okay." I didn't know what was coming, but I felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe I could find myself again in all the broken pieces. Daniel Harper picked a small cafe in Maple Grove for our meeting. Tall trees outside blocked the hot summer sun. When I got there, he was already at a corner table. His hands were clasped together, his face looking tired and old. I walked over, a scarf covering half my face. I wasn't hiding my scars, I just didn't want to show the old me. "Sarah, thank you for coming," Daniel said, standing up. His voice was kind but nervous. "I want to hear what you have to say," I replied, sitting down. A cup of coffee sat in front of him, steam rising, but he hadn't touched it. Daniel paused, then opened a worn leather bag. He pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. "Before we start, I want you to know no apology can fix what happened," he said. "My son, Ethan, made a terrible mistake. I'm here to make things right. If I can. I stayed quiet, watching him closely. Go ahead, I said. Daniel opened the folder and took out some photos. They were blurry pictures from a security camera. I could see Ethan's face, the driver who hit me. But what made my heart stop was the woman next to him. She had long red hair, a perfect face, and eyes I knew too well. It was Lily, James's assistant. Ethan wasn't alone that night, Daniel said, his voice steady. Lily, she was James's mistress. They were supposed to meet at a hotel. But James found out and told Ethan to deal with it. He wanted to scare her into staying quiet. But it went too far. I clenched my hands under the table, my nails digging into my skin. The pain felt sharp, but it kept me grounded. Deal with it? I asked. Did James tell Ethan to hurt Lily? No, Daniel said, shaking his head. James just wanted Ethan to follow her, to pressure her. But Ethan wasn't sober, he'd been drinking. He mixed up the cars and followed you instead. His words hit me like a punch. I was just an accident, a mistake in someone else's plan. But it also meant I'd been betrayed by the man I loved. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, my voice shaking. Anger and hurt mixed together inside me. I wanted to protect my son, Daniel said. But after learning what you've been through, I couldn't stay quiet. He slid the folder toward me. This is all the proof I have, he said. If you want to tell the truth, I'll help you. And I want to help you start over. Start over? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Reconstructive surgery, he said. I know your insurance won't cover it. But I can help. Not just to fix your face, but to give you a new one, a new identity. If you want. The idea felt strange, but it planted a seed in my mind. It was a chance to heal. Not just my scars, but my whole life. I could stop being the problem James and Evelyn wanted to fix. Why are you doing this? I asked, looking into his eyes. Because I don't want anyone else to hurt because of my family's mistakes. Daniel said. His eyes looked honest, and I believed him. I nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it, I said. But I don't want to be Sarah anymore. I want to be someone else, someone James and Evelyn won't recognize. Daniel let out a breath, like he was relieved. I understand, he said. I'll take care of everything. You'll become Clara Harper, my niece. We'll make it perfect, new papers. A new story, everything. That night, I sat in the quiet living room, staring at the mirror. It was still turned to the wall, hiding my reflection. I turned it around, forcing myself to look. Scars crisscrossed my face, and my eyes looked empty. The smile I used to have was gone. I didn't recognize myself, and that felt oddly okay. Clara Harper, I whispered, trying my new name. It sounded strange, but it felt like a promise. I wouldn't be weak Sarah anymore. I wouldn't be the wife who was betrayed and left behind. I'd be someone new, stronger, braver, ready for anything. A plan started forming in my mind. I'd come back into James and Evelyn's lives. But not as a victim. I'd be the one who knew the truth. The one in control. I'd show them what they lost. With a new face and a new name. I packed a small bag, leaving behind everything that didn't matter. I sent Daniel a message. I'm ready. My phone buzzed with a text from James. Mom wants to know when you'll be back. It said, everyone hopes you recover soon. I looked at the screen but didn't reply. My recovery would take longer than they thought. But it wouldn't be the kind they expected. When I came back, they wouldn't know who I was. I wasn't someone who wanted revenge. But sometimes, to start fresh, you had to end the past completely. The art gallery in downtown Pine Hollow was buzzing with people. Soft lights shone on the paintings hanging on the walls. Each artwork told a story without words, full of deep feelings. The new artist, Clara Harper, was a mystery. No one knew much about her, except that her paintings were powerful. They were full of pain and secrets. And people couldn't stop looking. I stood in a corner, wearing a sleek black dress. My short hair was styled in soft waves. And my face was completely new. The surgery didn't just change how I looked, it changed who I was. Clara Harper wasn't just a fake name anymore. She was real, strong, and unafraid. People walked around, whispering about the art. They stopped longest at the main painting in the center. It was a split portrait. One side showed a perfect face with a kind smile. The other side was messy, with red and black streaks, like a mask had been ripped off. It showed the painful truth underneath. The painting was called Hidden Truth. "This artwork is incredible," a familiar voice said behind me. I turned around and saw Marcus, the gallery owner. He was the first person to believe in my art. He helped me set up this show, even though he didn't know my past. "Thank you," I said, smiling as Clara. My voice was calm, but inside, I felt a storm of emotions. I looked across the room and saw James and Evelyn. They had come to the gallery opening. Just as I'd hoped. James wore a sharp suit, his green eyes scanning the crowd. Evelyn stood next to him, her face perfect, her smile fake. They didn't know the artist was me, the woman they thought they'd left behind. I walked over to them, my heart steady. "Good evening," I said, my new voice smooth and confident. "I'm Clara Harper, the artist." James looked at me, his eyes curious but clueless. "Nice to meet you," he said, shaking my hand. "Your work is intense." Evelyn nodded, her smile tight. "Yes, it's very emotional," she said. "There's a lot of pain in these paintings." "Thank you," I said, looking straight into their eyes. "They're inspired by real betrayal, by people who hurt others and think they can move on." James's smile faltered for a second, but he didn't recognize me. Evelyn's eyes narrowed slightly, like she sensed something, but she didn't say anything. I turned and walked away, my heart pounding with a strange kind of victory. They didn't know it, but I had taken back my power. I wasn't Sarah, the broken wife, anymore. I was Clara, and I was free. That night, as the gallery emptied, I stood alone in front of my painting. The two faces stared back at me, one perfect, one scarred. I knew I'd never be the perfect face again. But the scarred side, it was stronger than they'd ever know. I had lost so much. But I had found something better. I found myself. And that was enough. Clara Harper was ready for whatever came next.